In terms of process modeling in art, we could begin with the general idea of the illusion of motion. This is very interesting in arts practice. So I'm actually taking this idea from Rudolf Arnheim, who has written a lot of books on the theory of art and art practice and so on. And so these are just two example pictures. And if we take a look at the picture on the left, for example, we see a static picture, but the static picture is indicative of a moving person, right, with a shield and a sword and angelic wings. And so, while unlike animation, there is no illusion of motion from the standpoint of something that's 30 or 60 frames per second, something you would see in a movie. This is a different kind of illusion of motion. It's still an illusion of motion, and so also for the nude descending a staircase on the right, Marcel Duchamp, 1912. Clearly, this indicates motion, even though the medium itself is static. There's a kind of a period of art, rule-based generative art, and the rules are essentially, that's what the process model is. So the process model for LeWitt in creating the four-sided pyramid in 1965, those rules were the process model that when executed, when realized, when manifested, you end up with this work of art in front of you. And this idea of using rules kind of goes way back. There's a classic example of Mozart, and whether it's Mozart that did this or not, this is 18th century example. Let me just go ahead and open it up. The idea is that you can create music from rules where you basically have a pair of dice. So the dice indicates the next note or the next musical theme or musical component, maybe a section of music would be played, and the sections are sort of tied together, and they can create a work based on these random rules of generation. This is another one by LeWitt, where he says, in using the instructions, here's the instructions for creating what he calls wall drawing 273. So this is kind of interesting from numerous perspectives. One is this itself could classically be a kind of artwork. The fact that LeWitt was an artist and created these rules. This is also a model, and the model, when manifested or executed, then produces the walls. So it's interesting sort of from a number of different perspectives, but it's just a classic example of using rules and rule-based modeling in order to create art. In terms of the performing arts, like music, for example, this is one of my favorite programming languages, actually, MaxMSP. And MaxMSP is a visual programming language, and also, of course, a visual, like all programs, a visual modeling language that is used to create music and sound and music. And so this is an example of a computer program, a model that, when realized, creates music. Now, there's a lot of what we call track editing, and of course there would be similarities in animation for this sort of model. But this is a model that's kind of based around the idea of a piano roll. So piano rolls, the history behind those is, you've got the history of the piano. Before the piano you had things like harpsichords and other kinds of instruments. And then there was the piano, and then later, I believe in the 19th century, you had these these machines that basically look like a piano, but with this piano roll made of paper that had a bunch of holes in it, and the holes would designate notes to be played when that piano roll was rotated. Okay, so it's like an automatic piano or mechanical piano instrument. But the bottom line is this: what you're looking at is a model for music. Well, if we take a look at the performing art of dance, there are many different languages and patterns and models for portraying how dancers move over time. And so this is something from quite a while ago that is, and you can, if you click on the dance, you'll get more information on this. But basically this models the path of the dancers, but not just the path over time, but what physical position they were in over time. Okay, and so to get into this detail, you would have to find a dictionary or some sort of modeling language guide that allowed you to understand this diagram of a couple of dancers. But what's also interesting is if you look above at the very top, you find a musical score with measures. Measures being the components that you can tie together to make music. And it even has a time signature. Now, the reason why this is important is because typically in a performing art like dance, and this still may be well true today, is you need some kind of synchronization, some time synchronization. Well, music had that. So much before dance notation, you had music notation, and the music notation provides a temporal grounding for creating this model. So that's kind of an interesting aspect. Is the model by itself of the dance notation is, you don't know how fast it's going or how it's structured. Well, the musical score provides some sort of reference for that. Now, modern dance. Rudolf Laban created a thing called Labanotation, and this is a more modern incarnation of what you just saw. And so Labanotation is a very interesting notation for representing dance over time, and as such a model, a temporal model that represents dance.